Hi, we're here on Land Beat, and we're in southwest Missouri on a native prairie, and we're talking about one of the three primary components that quail have to have, and that's woody cover.
So Kyle, we're here in southwest Missouri, and this is a great day on the prairie to be talking about shrubby cover for bobwhites, for whitetails, for any prairie species that is going to be out in this hot weather. I mean, we're almost 100 degrees today, so this is quite the day to be talking about this.
Literally the hottest day we've had since 2014, so 8 years, we're truly at 100 degrees. Heat index today is supposed to be 105.
Right,
so
right.
we want to talk about what's going on right here behind us. Specifically for quail, but for several other species too, we'll touch on.
Yeah.
But this is a plum thicket here, and this is a critical have-to component of quail habitat management. They have to have woody cover all throughout the year.
Yeah.
People think about it when they're hunting, right?
Right,
Lots
right.
of people think about that's where you find coveys. You find them in plum thickets or dogwood thickets in the wintertime, and they do use those. They'll use them to prevent aerial predation.
Right.
But even on a day like today.
Yeah. So bobwhites are a shrub obligate. Everywhere they exist, they have to have shrubs. And shrubs are used for protection from predators, aerial predators, but also for thermal cover. They're used for thermal cover in the winter, but especially in the summer. We've done some experiments where we've put thermometers outside of a shrubby thicket versus inside. And in some days we'll get a 20 to 30 degree cooler, or there's a 20 to 30 degree difference outside versus inside. So it's much cooler inside. And when it's 100 degrees and you're a bobwhite on the prairie, or you're a bobwhite hen that's got a bunch of chicks, thermal protection is pretty critical. They need to get out of the sun. They need to get some shrubby cover. And a plum thicket like this, that's about this tall, is great thermal cover. It's great woody protection for bobwhites. You want something you don't want a huge thicket. We usually talk about the size of a pickup truck to the size of a garage on your house. It's kind of what we're talking about. And height maybe 10 to 12 feet tall.
Yeah, and we're looking for that, solid, so aerial predators can't crash down through the top, right? That's important. But also open underneath. We'll get in here in a minute and look how chicks and even adult bobwhites can move around. We don't want a bunch of vegetation in the thicket to prohibit movement. So it's important that they're open underneath. Sometimes you'll see on properties where they'll get invaded by cheatgrass and different things underneath, bluegrass sometimes, fescue.
Fescue, yeah, is a bad one here.
So, there's techniques that we can do. We can come in and we can spray underneath that early in the spring before the plums or the dogwoods are leafing out. We can spray some glyphosate under there. We can control some of that to make sure that they stay in the condition that we want them.
And we like these circular, clumpy type growth forms for the shrubby cover, because when a covey of quail gets in here, whether it's in the wintertime or with a hen and her brood, they can escape from all points of this. For instance, if a bobcat is after them from one direction, they can escape 360 degrees. So we like this circular clumps, and we like them spread out fairly fairly well distributed across the landscape. So every 100 yards is probably a good way to think about it. So they can fly from one shrubby thicket to another. You get too much shrubby cover, and then you lose your nesting cover and you lose your brood rearing cover, which is also very critical. So you want this type of cover well distributed throughout your property. And not only bobwhites use this. I mean, we're talking about bobwhites, but on a day like today, you could kick white-tailed deer out of here throughout all this prairie.
Oh, this is great. They can bed up in here. They're in the shade. We're kind of on the crest of a hill here, so there's an opportunity to catch a breeze flowing through here. This is ideal bedding cover for deer. And it's not just quail and deer. There's, out in prairie chicken country, the broods this time of year will have to use woody cover as well.
Yeah.
We typically think of prairie chickens being in woody habitat, but sometimes those species, on days like this, they have to get some shade to regulate their body temperature.